While Matt Roloff stood there, watching his beloved tractors and pieces of farm history get auctioned off one by one, he thought the worst part of his day was saying goodbye to the past. He was wrong. The real nightmare was just pulling into the parking lot. We all saw the cameras rolling for the auction special. We saw the sad music and the nostalgic glances. But what didn't make the final cut is the scene that reportedly unfolded just out of the frame. Imagine the confusion rippling through the crowd as the rhythmic chant of the auctioneer was suddenly drowned out not by applause, but by the distinctive chirp of sirens and the heavy crunch of tires on gravel. These weren't local deputies coming to direct traffic. According to explosive new theories and insider reports circling the production, the flashing blue lights reflecting off the barn walls belonged to unmarked SUVs with federal plates. The word on the ground is that U.S. Marshals weren't there to place a bid on a mule or a plow. They were there because a forensic trail of money had allegedly led them straight to the assets parked right behind the farmhouse. The sale of the farm might have been the end of an era, but the arrival of federal agents marked the beginning of a scandal that could tear the Roloff legacy apart completely. If you want to be the first to know the truth behind the reality TV smoke and mirrors, and if you believe that karma always comes eventually, make sure you hit that like button right now. It helps us get these investigations out to more people. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because as this legal drama unfolds, you are not going to want to miss a single update. Now, let's peel back the layers of this shocking event. To understand why federal agents would reportedly descend on a family farm in Oregon, we have to look at the atmosphere of that day. It was supposed to be a business transaction. Sad, yes, but strictly business. The public narrative was that Matt was downsizing, cleaning house, and preparing for the next chapter with Caryn. Hundreds of people were on the property. Potential buyers, fans of the show, and curious neighbors were all milling around, inspecting the equipment. The tension was already high because everyone knows the bitter history between Matt and Amy regarding the valuation of the farm. But as the auctioneer started the bidding on the heavy machinery, the energy shifted. Witnesses claim that heads started turning toward the main entrance. Usually at these events, latecomers park in the field and walk up. But these vehicles bypassed the designated parking. They moved with authority. We are talking about heavy-duty, blacked-out SUVs moving in a convoy formation. For a moment, some people might have thought it was just high-level security for the production crew, or maybe a VIP buyer. But when the doors opened, the people stepping out were not wearing TLC lanyards. They were wearing tactical vests. This is where the story takes a dark turn. You have to ask yourself, what brings the U.S. Marshals to a civil bankruptcy auction or a private estate sale? Marshals don't get involved in petty disputes. They don't show up for unpaid parking tickets. They are the enforcement arm of the federal courts. They handle asset forfeiture. They handle the seizure of property that has been deemed the proceeds of illicit activity or fraudulent transfers. The buzz moving through the crowd turned from curiosity to genuine shock. People stopped looking at the tractors and started pulling out their phones, realizing that the real show wasn't on the auction block. It was unfolding near the reserved parking area. The theory that is gaining absolute wildfire momentum among insiders is that this raid wasn't about the farmland itself. It was about where the money from the farm had been going for the last 5 years. We have heard whispers for a long time about a shadow ledger, a secondary set of books that Amy Roloff's legal team had been trying to access during the divorce and the subsequent buyout negotiations. The official story is that they settled. But what if the settlement was just the tip of the iceberg? New information suggests that a forensic audit, conducted quietly behind the scenes, flagged a series of massive, unexplained expenditures that didn't match the reported income of the farm's operations. We aren't talking about buying seeds or repairing fences. We are talking about luxury assets. This brings us to the centerpiece of this entire investigation. The Marshals reportedly weren't looking for Matt. They were looking for specific high-value items that were legally classified as fraudulent transfers. In legal terms, If you take money that belongs to a business or a partner and use it to buy personal luxury gifts for a third party to hide that money, that is a crime. And the items in question? A brand new, top-of-the-line luxury SUV and, more scandalously, a diamond ring valued at over $50,000. The target of this seizure wasn't Matt Roloff. It was Caryn Chandler. Imagine the scene. Matt is up near the podium, trying to maintain the image of the benevolent patriarch, the businessman making hard choices. He sees the commotion. He sees the uniforms. His first instinct might have been that something happened to a guest, or maybe a permit issue. But as he steps down from the trailer, the color reportedly drains from his face. He recognizes the situation for what it is. This is not a misunderstanding. This is a federal intervention. The theory is that the forensic accountants found a direct line from the farm's operating accounts, money that should have been split with Amy or used to pay off farm debts, straight into the dealership that sold Caryn her car and the jeweler that sold that massive rock on her finger. The crowd is watching this happen in real time. You have families there to buy a souvenir, suddenly watching a federal raid. The murmur of the crowd creates this low hum of anxiety. Matt tries to intercept the agents. You can imagine him waving his arms, trying to de-escalate, trying to use that famous Roloff charm that has gotten him out of tight spots with inspectors and zoning boards for decades. But you cannot charm a seizure order. A seizure order is absolute. It means a judge has already seen the evidence, and the evidence says that property does not belong to you. It belongs to the court. The specific focus on the SUV is crucial here. This vehicle was parked prominently near the house, almost like a trophy. It represents the new life Matt and Caryn were building, a life of comfort and travel. But if that car was bought with funds that were siphoned off the top of the farm's revenue before the final accounting with Amy, then driving it is literally driving stolen property. The Marshals moving toward that vehicle sent a message louder than any gavel bang. It signaled that the financial games were over. The verified reports of the auction describe a chaotic scene. But when you layer in this new information about the seizure, the chaos makes perfect sense. It wasn't just a disorganized sale. It was a crime scene processing. Let's go deeper into the why of this moment. Why now? Why at the auction? Asset seizures are often timed for maximum impact and to ensure the assets are where the authorities expect them to be. They knew everyone would be at the farm that day. They knew the car would be there. It was the perfect trap. And for Caryn, who has always tried to maintain a position of being just the girlfriend or the manager, this shatters that innocent image. If the feds are seizing your jewelry and your car, you are no longer a bystander. You are a participant. You are a beneficiary of the scheme. The narrative that Amy Roloff was just bitter or jealous takes on a whole new light when you look at it through the lens of forensic accounting. Maybe she wasn't jealous of the relationship. Maybe she was furious because she knew she was being robbed. If her lawyers finally cracked the code and traced those wire transfers, it would explain why she has seemed so much more confident and relaxed lately. She knew the hammer was about to drop. She knew that while Matt was selling off the tractors to liquefy assets, the authorities were watching every penny. As the agents approached the black luxury SUV, the reflection of the blue and red strobe lights danced across the polished chrome. It was a visual metaphor for the entire situation, the shiny, happy exterior of their new life being illuminated by the harsh light of the law. Matt's reaction, according to those close to the scene, shifted from confusion to panic. He reportedly began shouting that it was a mistake, that he had the paperwork, that this was a private civil matter. But the agents didn't stop. They didn't pause to debate the nuances of the divorce decree. They had a warrant, and a warrant speaks for itself. Meanwhile, the auctioneer is trying to keep the crowd focused on a rusty plow. But nobody is looking at the plow. Everyone is looking at the drama near the house. Smartphones are raised. The collective gasp of the audience as a tow truck, contracted by the Marshals, not the farm, starts backing up the driveway the moment the reality sets in. This wasn't a scripted drama for TLC. These were real-life consequences hitting hard. The tow truck wasn't there to haul away a tractor for a buyer. It was backing up to Caryn's car. Think about the humiliation. Matt Roloff prides himself on control. He controls the farm, he controls the narrative, he controls the projects. At this moment, he had zero control. He was watching his control be stripped away by the federal government in front of the very people he was trying to impress. And where was Caryn during this? The rumors are conflicting. Some say she was inside the farmhouse, watching through the curtains, terrified to step outside and face the cameras. Others say she was already gone, having been tipped off or sensing the heat, leaving Matt to deal with the public spectacle alone. But her car was there. Her ring was the subject of the warrant. Her assets were on the line. The setup of this raid was likely months in the making. Financial investigations take time. They require tracing IP addresses, bank routing numbers, and cross-referencing receipts. It's a slow burn, but when it ignites, it explodes. The timing of the auction was the catalyst. With millions of dollars changing hands, the authorities likely feared that Matt and Caryn were preparing to liquidate everything and move the funds to a place where they couldn't be touched. Perhaps that property in Arizona we keep hearing about. The raid was a preemptive strike to secure the assets before they vanished into the desert. To understand how a sunny afternoon auction turned into a federal crime scene, we have to rewind the clock and look at the invisible war that has been raging behind the scenes. The twist in this story isn't about tractors or pumpkin patches. It is about the cold, hard numbers that Amy Roloff's legal team reportedly uncovered. For years, the narrative has been that Amy was simply dragging her feet, that she was emotional and unable to let go of the farmhouse. But new exclusive theories suggest that her hesitation wasn't emotional, it was strategic. Sources close to the investigation indicate that Amy didn't just hire divorce lawyers, she hired forensic accountants, the kind of financial bulldogs who specialize in finding money that doesn't want to be found. And what they allegedly discovered in the farm's ledgers was not just mismanagement, but what the courts call fraudulent conveyance. This is the bombshell that changed everything. The theory is that while Matt was pleading poverty and claiming the farm was becoming too expensive to run, significant amounts of capital were quietly bleeding out of the operating accounts. But where was that money going? It wasn't vanishing into thin air. It was being transformed. This is where the $50,000 diamond ring comes into play. For months, fans have speculated about the size and cost of the rock on Caryn's finger. It was flashy, it was ostentatious, and it seemed out of place for a couple who were supposedly downsizing and budgeting. According to the reports fueling this federal raid, that ring wasn't purchased with Matt's personal savings. The forensic audit allegedly traced the funds used to purchase that jewelry directly back to the farm's revenue stream, money that, by law, should have been part of the shared assets to be divided with Amy or used to satisfy outstanding business debts. In the eyes of the law, if you take company money to buy a personal gift for a girlfriend to keep that money away from a business partner or a creditor, that ring is no longer jewelry. It is stolen property. It is a vessel for hidden cash. The U.S. Marshals weren't there to take a sentimental token. They were there to repossess a $50,000 asset that was bought with funds that didn't belong to the buyer. But the ring was just the sparkling tip of the iceberg. The audit reportedly flagged a second, much larger purchase, the luxury black SUV. This vehicle has been seen in the background of social media posts and show segments, often presented as a symbol of Matt and Caryn's new freedom. A high-end vehicle perfect for road trips to Arizona. However, the paper trail tells a different, darker story. Insider theories suggest that the down payment and the monthly lease payments for this luxury cruiser were being drawn from a maintenance sub-account legally attached to the farm's heavy equipment budget. Imagine the audacity. The allegation is that while they were selling off the actual farm equipment at auction to save money, they were using the farm's equipment budget to drive around in luxury. This is why the Marshals targeted the car. It wasn't just a mode of transport. It was, legally speaking, a rolling bank vault containing the proceeds of the alleged fraud. When the agents moved past the auction podium, they weren't guessing. They had the VIN number. They had the purchase order. They had the bank transfer records provided by Amy's forensic team. This explains why Amy has been so quiet yet so confident in recent months. She didn't need to scream on camera because the numbers were doing the screaming for her in federal court. She knew that every time Caryn drove that car or flashed that ring, she was parading evidence. And she knew that eventually the bill would come due. That bill arrived in the form of a federal seizure order on the day of the auction. The twist is that the auction wasn't the main event. It was the trap. By allowing the auction to proceed, the authorities ensured that the assets and the people controlling them would be in one place, out in the open, unable to claim the car was stolen or lost because hundreds of witnesses were staring right at it. As the realization rippled through the crowd, the atmosphere at the farm curdled. The excitement of the bid was replaced by the morbid curiosity of the bystander. You could see people whispering, pointing not at the items they came to buy, but at the drama unfolding by the house. The auctioneer, a professional trying to do a job, reportedly tried to raise his voice to keep the momentum going on a vintage tractor, but he was fighting a losing battle against human nature. No one cares about a used plow when the FBI or Marshals are practically raiding the property next door. The camera crews for the show, who are usually adept at capturing manufactured drama, were reportedly scrambling. This wasn't on the call sheet. This wasn't a scripted argument about a pumpkin salsa recipe. This was real legal jeopardy. There is a frantic energy when the fourth wall breaks, and insiders say the producers were torn between filming the goldmine of footage and fear that their own equipment might be confiscated as evidence if they got too close. Then came the climax, the moment that will likely be etched in reality TV infamy if the footage ever sees the light of day. A heavy-duty flatbed tow truck, authorized by the U.S. Marshals Service, began to navigate the narrow gravel driveway. This wasn't a farm truck. It was a repo truck. The sound of its reverse beeper, beep, 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 cut through the country air like a countdown. It was heading straight for Caryn's luxury SUV. The symbolism was brutal. The vehicle that represented their escape, their retirement, their victory over Amy, was about to be hooked up and dragged away like a piece of junk. Matt Roloff's reaction, as described by witnesses on the ground, was a mixture of absolute denial and frantic bargaining. We have seen Matt angry before. We have seen him stubborn, but we have rarely seen him powerless. He rushed toward the agents, his crutches digging into the gravel, waving a sheaf of papers that he likely pulled from his jacket, perhaps the auction manifest or some irrelevant permit. Witnesses claim he was screaming that this was a civil matter, that they had no right, that he would call the governor. But here is the cold reality of a federal seizure. The agents on the ground do not care who you know. They do not care about your TV ratings. They have a court order signed by a federal judge, and that order supersedes everything. One agent, stone-faced and professional, simply held up a hand to stop Matt's advance, handing him the seizure warrant with a calmness that made Matt's panic look even more chaotic. The visual contrast was striking. On one side, you have the chaotic, dusty, emotional reality TV star losing control. On the other side, you have the silent, imposing, tactical precision of federal law enforcement. They didn't yell back, they just worked. The tow truck driver, indifferent to the fame of the vehicle's owner, backed the bed up to the bumper of the shiny black SUV. He got out, chains rattling in his hands. That sound, the metal chains hitting the pavement, is the sound of rock bottom. And the crowd? The crowd abandoned the auction entirely. The people who had registered to bid, the loyal fans, the neighbors, they all turned their backs on the podium. A sea of smartphones rose in the air. This is the modern public humiliation. In the old days, you might be put in the stocks in the town square. Today, you are filmed by 300 iPhones while your car is repossessed by the government. They were zooming in, capturing Matt's red face, capturing the flashing lights reflecting off the chrome of the grille, capturing the marshals taking photos of the vehicle's condition before seizure. Every second was being documented. The humiliation wasn't just happening in real time, it was being stored to be broadcast to the world. The theory regarding the ring is even more dramatic. While the car was being hooked up outside, rumors suggest a second team of agents had entered the farmhouse or approached the safe zone where Caryn was located. The warrant included all assets purchased with funds derived from the contested accounts, specifically listing the diamond jewelry. If Caryn was wearing that ring, she would have been ordered to take it off. Imagine that moment. The ring that was likely flashed in Amy's face, the ring that symbolized her status as the new matriarch, being slid off her finger and placed into a plastic evidence bag. It is the ultimate stripping of status. Without the ring, without the car, without the farm money, the glamour fades instantly, leaving only the grim reality of alleged fraud. As the tow truck winch began to whine, pulling the heavy SUV up onto the flatbed, the suspension of the vehicle groaned. It was a visceral sound. Matt reportedly stopped shouting and just stared. The fight had left him. He realized that this wasn't a negotiation he could win. The flashing lights of the police cruisers continued to strobe, painting the farmhouse in an emergency rhythm of blue and red. The auctioneer had effectively given up, stepping away from the microphone. The show was over, or rather, the real show had just concluded its most shocking scene. The specific targeting of Caryn's assets suggests that the authorities view her not as an innocent bystander, but as a participant in the financial irregularities. You don't seize a girlfriend's car unless you can prove the money used to buy it was dirty. This raid implies that the forensic audit successfully pierced the corporate veil, proving that Matt and Caryn were treating the farm's business accounts as their personal piggy bank. And now, the bank was taking it back. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the chains were tightened, the tires of the luxury SUV leaving skid marks in the gravel as it was dragged into position. It was a violent, mechanical end to the fantasy they had built. The tow truck driver secured the wheels, checked the straps, and climbed back into the cab. As the engine roared to life and the truck began to pull away, carrying the symbol of their ill-gotten gains down the long driveway, a murmur went through the crowd. It wasn't sympathy. It was the shock of witnessing karma in its purest, most aggressive form. Matt was left standing in the cloud of dust left by the departing truck, holding a piece of paper that told him exactly how much trouble he was in. The auction was ruined. His reputation was in tatters. And the woman he did it all for was reportedly hiding inside, ringless and carless, waiting for the dust to settle. But as the truck disappeared down the road, followed by the unmarked federal vehicles, everyone knew that the dust wasn't going to settle. This was just the opening shot of a legal war that would consume everything they had left. As the heavy tires of the tow truck crunched over the gravel, dragging the black luxury SUV out onto the county road, a profound silence descended over the farm. It wasn't the quiet of a peaceful country afternoon. It was the stunned silence of a crowd that had just witnessed the collapse of an empire. The flashing lights of the federal vehicles faded into the distance, but the damage they left behind was permanent. Matt Roloff was left standing in the driveway, the dust from the departing convoy settling on his shoulders, holding a seizure warrant that was heavy with the weight of federal law. The auction, for all intents and purposes, was dead. You cannot simply go back to bidding on a mule-drawn plow after watching the host's primary vehicle get repossessed by the U.S. government. The mood had shifted from commerce to crime scene. People weren't looking at the items for sale anymore. They were looking at Matt, and they were whispering. The whispers weren't about the price of pumpkins. They were about fraud, about hidden ledgers, and about the woman who was nowhere to be found. Where was Caryn during the final act of this humiliation? This is where the story shifts from the farm in Oregon to the sun-baked deserts of Arizona. While Matt was facing the music and the cameras in the driveway, insiders believe Caryn was already in damage control mode, perhaps even physically distancing herself from the property. The seizure of her car and the targeting of her jewelry feed directly into the explosive theory that she is currently hiding out in a rental property in Arizona, not just for a vacation, but as a strategic retreat. We have known for a long time that Matt and Caryn were building a home down south, a place to retire. But new information suggests that this Arizona property wasn't just a retirement plan. It was a bunker. It was a place to stash assets and live away from the prying eyes of the Oregon courts and Amy's forensic team. The raid on the farm changes the context of their Arizona move entirely. If the feds are seizing assets in Oregon, It stands to reason that they are looking at the Arizona transactions too. The theory is that the rental Caryn is currently rumored to be staying in is actually a safe house of sorts, a place to lay low while the heat dies down. But with federal warrants involved, there is no cooling off period. The arm of the law is long and it reaches across state lines. If that diamond ring, the one valued at $50,000, wasn't on her finger at the farm because she had already spirited it away to Arizona, she has escalated this from a civil asset dispute to potential obstruction of justice. The rumor mill is churning with reports that Caryn is terrified, refusing to be seen in public, fearing that the next knock on the door won't be a neighbor, but a federal agent coming to finish what was started at the auction. Think about the optical disaster this creates for the show. TLC thrives on drama, on family squabbles, on tension. But this is not the kind of drama a network wants. This is the kind of drama that gets shows canceled. You can film a divorce. You can film a feud. You cannot film a federal indictment for wire fraud or asset concealment without serious legal repercussions. The producers, who were there to capture a heartwarming farewell to the farm equipment, instead captured the evidence of a financial scandal. And you have to wonder, where is that footage now? Is it in an editing bay in Los Angeles? Or has it been subpoenaed by the same marshals who took the car? The fallout for Matt Roloff is catastrophic. He has spent decades curating an image of the hard-working, misunderstood visionary. He painted Amy as the obstacle, the one who didn't understand business. But this raid vindicates Amy in a way that no argument on the show ever could. It proves that her skepticism wasn't bitterness, it was intuition. She knew the numbers didn't add up. She knew that the lifestyle Matt and Caryn were leading didn't match the farm's reported income during the divorce proceedings. The seizure of the SUV and the warrant for the ring are the physical proof that money was being moved, hidden, and spent before it could be properly divided. Amy doesn't need to say, "I told you so." The empty parking spot where Caryn's car used to be says it for her. The psychological toll on the couple must be shattering. For Caryn, the humiliation is total. She has fought for years to be seen as more than just the employee who dated the boss. She wanted to be the partner, the equal. But having your personal luxury items seized by the government frames you explicitly as a beneficiary of illicit funds. It strips away the legitimacy of her position. Without the expensive car, without the flashy ring, and with the cloud of a federal investigation hanging over her, the power dynamic shifts. She is no longer the queen of the castle. She is a liability. And for Matt, the man who needs to be in control, watching his girlfriend's car get hooked up and dragged away in front of his fans is the ultimate emasculation. He couldn't stop it. He couldn't talk his way out of it. He was powerless. As the sun began to set on the farm that day, the crowd slowly dispersed. But they didn't leave empty-handed. They left with videos, with photos, and with stories that would spread like wildfire across the internet. The auction was a failure financially, but as a news event, it was a bombshell. The lingering question now is, what happens next? Federal investigations do not stop with a car and a ring. Those are just the low-hanging fruit. If the authorities had enough evidence to get a warrant for those items, they likely have evidence of much deeper financial irregularities. We could be looking at a future where the Roloff farm itself is placed in receivership, where bank accounts are frozen, and where Matt and Caryn are forced to answer questions under oath, not in a TV confessional, but in a federal deposition. The Arizona property, once their dream escape, might now be the next target. If funds from the farm were used to build or buy that home, it is fair game for seizure. Imagine the scene: Caryn hiding out in the desert, watching out the window as the same black SUVs that raided the farm pull up to her sanctuary in Arizona. The walls are closing in. The forensic audit has reportedly exposed a web of transfers that cannot be explained away as accounting errors. This is systematic, this is deliberate, and this is far from over. The legacy of the show is now tainted forever. You can never look at those old episodes the same way again. When you see Matt complaining about money or Caryn showing off a new purchase, you will now see the shadow of the forensic audit looming over them. You will wonder, was that bought with stolen money? Is that the reason Amy was rolling her eyes? The lens through which we view the Roloff family has been shattered by the flashing lights of those police cruisers. The reality they tried to project has been dismantled by the reality of the law. As we wrap up this investigation into the dark side of the Roloff farm, I want you to ask yourself a serious question. We know the car is gone, we know the feds are looking for the money, but what about the ring? That $50,000 symbol of their union, allegedly bought with farm funds that should have gone to the family. Do you think Caryn should be forced to hand it over voluntarily? Should she walk into the Marshals office and place it on the counter to try and save some dignity? Or do you think she is going to hide it, bury it, or run with it to Arizona, hoping they never find it? I want to hear your verdict. Is this just karma coming back to bite them for how they treated Amy? Or is this a government overreach? Go down to the comment section right now and let me know. Seize the ring or leave Caryn alone? I will be reading your theories and pinning the best ones. And listen, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the secrets they don't want you to see on TV, if you want the truth that TLC tries to edit out, you need to support this channel. We are the only ones bringing you these insider reports and connecting the dots on the forensic evidence. Smash that like button. It really helps the algorithm show this truth to more people. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We are tracking the flight logs, we are watching the court filings, and as soon as there is an update on Caryn's location or a new seizure order, you will be the first to know. The raid was just the beginning. The trial is coming. Thanks for watching, and remember, the truth always comes out in the audit.